In this presentation, we will work a problem related to responsibility accounting performance reports. Information will be up top. We're going to take that information and put it into the blue items down below. The scenario will be that we're going to have two departments, C and T, the budgeted information and the actual information for them, and they're going to be reporting to the regional department, so the department regional office, and so the regional office will then be overseeing. We're going to prepare performance reports for them. So our information up top then, the budgeted information for Department C, Department T, the total between the two of them, actual information, what actually happened for C, T department, and then the total. Now the blue areas up top are going to be controlled by the department manager. So they're going to be responsible for those costs. The orange areas are going to be controlled by the plant manager in addition to items controlled by the department manager. In other words, the orange items are going to be controlled or responsibility of the regional managers, and of course they also are in control over the department managers as well. Information then is going to be the budget information for C and T, actual information for C and T. That includes the raw materials, the employee wages, department manager salary, supplies used, depreciation, utilities, building rent, office department costs. Now again, our goal here is to apply responsibility accounting for those things that they have control over. And so the ones that they have control over, we're saying are going to be the blue items. And then the regional department is the one that's going to have control over the orange items. So the orange items then are going to be the items like the manager's salary, of course, is something that's going to be charged to the departments, C and T, but it's not something that they really have control over themselves. It's not their decision as to what the salary is. That's going to be the decision of the regional department. So therefore, we're going to fill out the responsibility accounting performance reports for C, for T, and then we'll for the regional department, for the regional office. So let's go through this process. We're going to start off with our raw materials. So we're going to start off, this is for C, Department C. We're going to have the raw materials, and we're just going to say equals, and we're going to pull down the blue items up top. So raw materials in B5 and enter. And then we'll take the actual numbers, so C28 equals, scrolling back up, we're looking for raw materials in E5 and enter. And then we'll take the difference between those two. I'm going to say this equals the actual amount minus the budgeted amount. And that gives us 1,400. Now we're going to go to the employee wages. So employee wages equals, we're just going down the blue items, scrolling up top. That's going to be the 106.50 tab. And then this equals the actual amount is going to be over in the 107.600 tab. We'll take the difference between the two, which is going to be C minus B, or 107.600 minus 106.50. That's the 1550. Now we're going to take the next blue item, the one that has responsibility for Department C, equals, and we'll scroll back up top. Now again, we're skipping the manager's salary because, again, that the manager, although they're controlling the area, doesn't have control over their own salary. So that's something that is out of their control and therefore not something that we're going to judge them on within their responsibility accounting report. So we're going to take the supplies used then. Supplies used, I picked up the title, equals, and then we're going to say the 33.2, and then the actual, we'll scroll up, and the actual was for C in E8, that's 32,300, and then we'll take the difference between those two. This equals the 32,300 minus the 33.2, that being 900, and then we'll take depreciation. And we might it might be better just to use the formula. I'll say equals and say we want this next blue item up top, depreciation. We're going to say that equals, scrolling up, the 61,000 tab. And then for the actual, scrolling up, that's going to be the 62.4 tab. And then we'll subtract the two. This equals the 62.4 minus the 61. And that gives us the 1,400. So then we're going to have the totals, and we'll sum this up using our sum function, equals the sum of and then we'll sum these out, tab, and then we could copy that across using autofill. I'll just sum them up as well here though, so that we can emphasize this process. Now this one, of course, will be the sum of the outer column, or it should match that if we were to subtract these two out, that we can kind of give it a double check. 395850 minus 396500. I should have done it the other way for negative and positive, but 650 is the difference, so that's what matters. Now we're going to do the same thing for T, so we'll do the same thing for T department now. So T department equals, we're going to scroll back up, raw materials is this item. Now you could just copy these down because clearly it's similar, but I'm going to use the formulas to emphasize which ones we're picking up. So then we're going to say the budgeted amount is going to be scrolling up the T's amount now, 275,800, and then the actual amount we're going to say equals and scroll up, and that's going to be the 274,200. And then we'll subtract the 2 out. I'm going to say this equals the 274,200 minus the 275,800 and enter. And now we'll do the next one, which is going to be equal to the employee wages. So we'll scroll up, employee wages, tab, and then the next item is going to be the budget amount equals, scrolling up, that's going to be the 206,200, tab, and then the actual amount equals, scrolling up, we're going to say that's the 206,400, and then we'll subtract the 2 out. This equals the 206,400 minus the 206,200, and that's the 200. So now we're going to go to supplies, so this equals, I'm going to scroll back up and say the next blue item is supplies, skipping the salary for the manager again because they don't have control over that, equals, and we'll scroll up and say that that's going to be the 92,200, tab, and then the actual equals, scrolling up, that's going to be the 91,300, tab, and then we'll subtract the 2, this equals the 91,300 minus the 92,200 and enter. So that's going to give us the 900 difference there. Next item, we're going to say this equals and scroll up. Next blue item is going to be the depreciation, tab. Then we're going to take the budgeted number equals, scrolling up. We're picking up the budget 126,000, tab. Next item equals the actual number. So this is what actually happened. We're going to go to the 126,500, tab, and then subtract the 2 out. This is the 126,500 minus the 126 and enter. Now we'll total these out. So we're going to say total and sum equals the sum of, and we'll sum these up. Tab equals the sum of, and we'll sum these up. Tab and equals the sum of, and we'll sum these up. And again, we could subtract these 2 out just for a double check as well. It would be this minus this, same number. Okay, so those are going to be our 2 departments. Now we got the responsibility for the regional plant that's going to be responsible for those 2 departments, as well as the costs to run the regional office. So if we scroll back up, now we're going to be looking at those items that are going to be the orange items. So we're going to look at the orange items here, and these are going to be the orange items that are for each department that were spent out of each department or allocated to each department. However, they're not the responsibility of the department manager, such as the salary, the utilities, and the building rent. These are decisions that are outside the control of the manager of this department. Although they're for that department, they are in the control of the regional manager. So we're going to pick up those items, and then of course we're going to pick up the items that are in control of the departments, as well as they're being overseen by the regional manager here. So we're going to pick up these items. Once again, we're going to scroll down. We're going to say this equals. I'll scroll back up top, and we're going to say this is going to be the department manager salary. Now this is, again, the responsibility of the regional manager is the department manager. The department manager's salary, in other words, is something that the regional manager has control over. And so we're going to say that's going to be tab, and this will be equal. Scrolling back up. Now be careful now, we're not picking up C or T, we're picking up the total now, because of course the regional area is in control of both C and T. So this is something that the regional manager has control over the 2 departments, and therefore we're picking up the total, the 96.7 tab. And then the actual is going to be equal to, if we scroll back up, we're going to pick up the 98.2 tab, and then we'll subtract the 2 out. This is the 98.2 minus the 96.7 and enter. So the next item is utilities. So we're going to say equals, scroll back up. And again, the item here, utilities, we're saying it's not under the control of the regional managers. The utility bill is something that we're saying is under the control of the regional manager, not of the department manager, we're going to say. So utilities, tab, we're going to say this equals and scroll back up. Therefore, again, we're not picking up the T or C or T totals. We're picking up the total amount here, which is the 10,600 for utilities. And then the actual is going to be equal to, we'll scroll back up to the utilities, and again, picking up the total amount of the 8,300 and enter. Next is going to be the building rent. I'm going to say equals and scroll back up. We're picking up the building rent now. Again, it's for those 2 departments, but it's not something that the department manager has control over. They're not getting the terms of the lease. The department manager, they're running the department. The term of the building lease is not under their control. So we're going to say this equals and scroll back up and say that this is going to be the 15.8, the total, and then tab, and then the actual amount scrolling up equals, and then scrolling up is going to be the 14.5 and tab. Then let's subtract these 2 out for both of these. This equals the 8.3 minus the 10.6. This equals the 14.5 minus the 15.8. Okay, then next item, this equals, we're going to scroll back up, and we picked up the building rent. So now we're going to go down to the office department's annual budget. This is the items that are going to be in control or for the regional office, rather than the items up here, which are for the C and T department, although they're in the control of the regional office. Now here, in a similar fashion as the salary is not going to be in the control of the department, it's in the control of the regional manager's salary isn't in their control either. The plant manager's salary here isn't in their control because it's going to be in the higher ups control here. So that's going to be not in their responsibility accounting. The other office salaries, however, are in their control and therefore are included. So we're going to say other office salaries equals, and we'll scroll back up, and this is going to be the 14.5 tab, and then equal, and we'll scroll back up, and this will be the 25.3 and enter. And then we're going to take the difference between these two. This equals the 25.3 minus the 40,005. That's the 15.2. And then we got the other office costs. So we're going to say equals. Scrolling back up, we need to pick up the other office costs tab, and then equals, and we'll scroll back up, and that's going to be the 14,000 tab, and then equals, scrolling back up, the 19.8 tab, and then subtracting out, this equals the 19.8 minus the 14,000. Okay, so those, we accounted for all the costs now, but we also have to account for the fact that the regional manager is going to be in control of the two departments as well ultimately, so they're ultimately responsible for the two departments. So we're going to say we have C department here, and we're going to say this equals, and we're going to scroll up and say that's going to be this item for C department. So we're just going to pick up from the responsibility report up top, tab, and then this equals, and we'll scroll back up and we'll pick up the actual number, tab, and then the difference between the two equals the 396.5 minus the 395.8. And then we'll do the same for T department, and we're going to say this equals and scroll back up, and we'll pick up the T department 702, and then this equals, and we'll pick up the 698.4, subtracting them out, this number minus the 702, and there we have it. And then we've got the total, and the total is going to equal the sum of, and then we'll pick up all these items, tab, equals the sum of picking up these items, tab, and equals the sum of, and then picking up these items, tab, and then we could double check this number minus this number should be the same, and there we have it. Now we might want to just run a check figure on this just to see if we picked everything up. I mean, if you look at these numbers up top, you can say, okay, we picked up all these numbers we picked up somewhere, and then this number is really picking up the totals here that are applied to these items, because this is the purpose of this office, of course, is for the running of C and T. So therefore, we can say, okay, well, what if we just give a double check just to make sure that we pick all this information up? So to do that, I'm going to say, let's give our check numbers down below. And we're going to start with department costs. I'll say department costs equals, and we're going to pick up this number, the total for everything, tab, and then the actual, let's do the same thing, pick up the actual totals. And then we've got the office, the regional office equals, and if we scroll back up, that's going to be this number, tab, and the actual is going to be this number. So that's our data. That's all the data that we had to start off with, all of our costs. And if we total that up, then just to give a subtotal, this equals the sum of these two. I'm going to copy that across using autofill. And so that's the same formula copied across. And then now we need to basically compare that to what our information is. So we have our amount that we have applied out, which in essence is just this regional budget total, because this includes everything. It includes the items from the departments. So these two departments are already included here. So we're going to say this is in essence the number that we have accounted for here, and that's the regional number. Now we have a difference between those two, so we can say, okay, well, what's the difference is going to be equal to this number minus this number. This equals this minus this. And then we're going to say, well, what is that? What is that? Can we reconcile that difference? So that difference should be the department costs. So department costs, because we included them 2 times when we picked up this information. So you'll see up top that we basically picked up the total here and the total here. These 2 totals include the regional office. So the regional office is already in there. So that's going to be part of the difference here. So I say, okay, part of the difference, if I subtract out, I'm going to say negative, and I'm going to say negative of this number, tab, and negative of this number. Those have been basically counted 2 times. And then the plant manager salary is the other one that's not responsible. So I'm going to say negative of this number. You'll note that this number is not responsible even on the plant manager. We didn't include it there, although it's going to be allocated to the plant manager, to that plant. It's not something that they have responsibility over, and therefore that's going to be the difference. So we'll take out that item for the actual and budget. And then if this reconciles, it should sum up to 0. These 3 should sum up to 0, so we'll sum that up and say this number minus these 2 sums up to 0. And that's basically our check figure, just to double check that we have found a home for all of these items, and it does basically reconcile. The only one not there is really the plant manager salary, because although it's applied to this plant, to this operating area, it's not under their control and therefore isn't in the responsibility accounting reports.